Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we are reading Legendborn by the Tracy Deonn. And today we are discussing chapters 24 through 26.
Starting the timer.
Gotcha.
Previously on Wizard Team, Bree went to the banquet at the lodge, and we've been doing countdowns of how many days she's been on campus and how many racisms she's gotten, but she had multiple racisms. We counted 3 within 20 minutes on her 4th day on the UNC campus. What does that spell for racism being alive in UNC? You read it there. But this happened in the lodge, from Bree encountering the Order of the Rose, into her running into one of their backwood sons, Vaughn, who also got the very gracious and hot seat moment of being Bree's first read of the night. And it was a classic read, a table jumping read, and Vaughn was not ready. He could not take. We also hear a long-winded speech from Lord Davis, because he doesn't know how to do anything else. Is that the pot calling the kettle black with me? Keep it quiet. Don't talk about me. I'm good. He basically uses big quotes to say that Camelot is coming, and the page trial is going from being something that's a prolonged endeavor to expedited, because we do not care. Nick also leads Bree to the first trial. She is again put in a situation where she cannot see, and he has to lead her on. They flirt with each other, and then again, when Nick leaves her, who pops down from the sky and is ready to threaten Bree? You've guessed it. It's Cell. This is his thing. This is his MO. He just loves this. And Bree has to sit there and gives Cell a light read. It's not a full read. He just gives a little tease. And then we finally get to the page trial. There are Hellbore, constructs, and the pages and training in trial are all led to. There's 2 different rounds, and in each round, 3 different groups, pairs are competing to get the dummies that they have that are actual human weight to safety by getting past those constructs. Does Bree's new enemy, Vaughn, fall out? No. It's actually some randos that we have not heard of before who fall out during Bree's round. But the important thing is that Bree and her partner Sydney pass. But before she can celebrate, before she can even figure out where she is in this continuum of not fitting in within the order, Nick gets snatched up by a hell snake. And Cell, who's already overtaxed by putting this trial together and doing the security for the full freaking campus, has to snap into action and wrangle the Nick away from the snake and kill the snake. So we're popping off and starting off here on this episode with, where does Nick even feel like after being wrangled and snatched up by a hell snake?
All right. So we go straight from Cell saving Nick from the hell snake into chapter 24, and Bree is standing outside of Nick's door in his room in the lodge, hesitating because being alone with Nick is intense. This chapter has a lot of important world building, Camlands coming, get to know you stuff. But is it as important as the romance? I don't know.
Who can say?
Who can say?
Who can say?
But I will say that there are
it's a good balance for sure.
There were a couple of times when I was reading this.
You spend a lot of time squealing.
I was reading this and I was like, Porshèa is in hell and me and Bayana are in heaven right now.
I do not care. I was like, okay.
I was like, That's how I read
yeah.
this. A lot of this chapter was just like a high-pitched squeal. So
Yeah.
she is standing there and she's like, should I let him rest? Should I check on him? I don't know. But, you know, understandably, like, sometimes, girl, you are stressed out and you need to see the person to make sure that they're okay with your own eyes. Even if someone told you they're okay, you're like, that's cool, I don't really believe you until I see it. So she walks in the room. She sees Nick laying on his stomach, sleeping, and just kind of stares at him before deciding to turn around and go and, like, let him rest. And then Nick is like, who's creepy now, Bree? He wakes up and sees what's going on, and or sees her checking on her. I love that she's like, is William going to be mad and yell at me if I stay here and talk to you? And he's like, yeah, that's a risk we'll have to take. So she climbs into bed, very, I don't know, platonically is not the word, but very innocently. Just, there's nowhere else to sit. She's sitting on the bed. It's late at night.
She kind of does it and then is like, oh, that was not a, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe I shouldn't
like,
have.
But she got like, she was like, she took her shoes off, climbed on in, and was like getting cozy, and then was like, oh shoot, oops.
I didn't think this through.
But they start to, like, kind of debrief about what just happened, and Cell thinks that this attack was planned to quickly subdue and take Nick. So it's not even just, like, trying to kill Nick at this point. Like, maybe they're trying to kidnap or, like, take him hostage. We don't really know. Nick says that his dad kind of agrees that it was definitely planned, and so the regents are calling a meeting in the northern chapter. His dad's going to rest for another day before he flies up there to join them. And Cell is in charge while he's away. And I'm just like, great idea, regents. But also,
there are no other adults.
Cell doesn't have enough on his plate already. Like, again, why can't you get the King's Mage on campus?
Like, there's so many things wrong with this.
It reminds me so much of, I don't know if you guys, like, have seen, like, I forget which John Mulaney special it is, but he's talking about how when he was a kid, his babysitter was like, he was like 11 and his babysitter was 15. And he's thinking back on it and he's like, she was just a slightly larger child. Like, why is she in charge? It's like having a horse dog sit, like, just because she's a little bit larger.
Even worse is thinking about, like, Baker's Club, and, like, they're like 13, and I'm like, at the time when I was like 9, I was like, oh, that's so adult, it makes so much sense. They were 13.
I always thought that it made sense in terms of we're going to dinner, even though when you think about it too, no, it doesn't, because they didn't have cell phones like when it was really written. Now they have cell phones. But it's like, okay, we're going to dinner, we're going to the movies. Like, you can have, like, the 13-year-old watch your kid, a couple of hours, whatever. They were, like, doing, like, overnights in the Babysitter's Club. That is wild.
They went to camps. Like, it was so wild.
It was wild. Different time. In this time frame, Cell is in charge while thinking one of the pages he's supposed to keep safe is a demon. He's not wrong. Can I just say this? One of the pages is a demon.
No, a page.
He's a squire.
A squire.
Someone in the order is a demon, but he's just completely wrong about who that demon is.
Which makes it doubly wrong if you think about it, because, like, if you're gonna have suspicions, at least be somewhere on target. You're just like, he is Fred in A Pup Named Scooby-Doo with the red herring. He's like, I got one guy that I count on to be my person. It's like, no, actually, look around a little bit further. Perhaps that would be helpful in this moment. Thank you.
He knows there's a demon in the ranks, and Bree is that demon. And then they talk about, Bree actually thinks this isn't like a part of the conversation, but I think it's really important. It's like the first time that Bree actually worries that Cell focusing all of his, like, attention on her being the demon is actually putting Nick in real danger because of, I mean, this is what, the second, like, coordinated attack that we think on the Order, in the Order's territory, on Nick specifically, like, looking for Nick. And so she's actually having to kind of, for the first time, really grapple with her plan outside of herself. Like, I mean, not that she was, like, F Nick, whatever happens, happens. But, like, it was more like I'm taking on the risk, and there's a risk to me. And, like, Nick is going to help me, but there isn't as much of a risk, you know, besides helping me infiltrate this order. Now she's thinking about, like, his actual safety, and the fact that, like, as terrifying as Cell is, he's really effective. He is doing his job of, like, saving Nick, but if Nick is in a higher, or if Nick is in more danger, then is my presence here really going, is it really going to put him in an even more precarious position, while also, because of talking to Dr. Hardwood, knowing that there's now a second avenue to kind of learn more about this world without infiltrating the order. But then Nick is like, I just want to thank you so much for still being here and sticking around. I really appreciate it. And then she kind of, like, loses that thread.
Yeah.
The health snake.
Yeah, she's like, am I a distraction? Oh, well, guess not. Or
it's
even
nice
if I
to
am.
be
Or I'm a
distraction.
welcome distraction, I guess.
Like,
Yeah.
Also, I just want to say,
Right.
the hell snake, I'm assuming, because Nick says, let me read this passage. That is this utterly ridiculous passage. He says, thank you. Hold on. I went too far. He says, thank you for still being here, even after the Hellhound, the Uchel, and Felicity being called, and now a surferfern, which I'm assuming is the Hell Snake.
right.
F y'all. Tracy, ma'am. This Welsh is, no disrespect to Wales, beautiful country. Wonderful, great mythology and all of that stuff. Enjoy. I don't know. I don't read it too much, but, like, impressed that it existed, that it has lasted this long or whatever. Surf.
Again, I would like to congratulate the people who decided to come to make the colonizer really have to work to understand them. I love you for that. That's great.
My mouth can't even form that. Like, even when I was reading it in my brain was like, skip over it, girl. It don't matter. It's probably the snake. Just call it the snake. Nick says, I never thought we'd be this close to Camland, but I'm glad you're here with me. When we first met, some part of me trusted you. I don't know why. I just did. You trusted her because she is Arthur. You are Lancelot. There is magic.
You're her best friend.
She's your 6th century bestie.
It would be hilarious if every time Nick sees her, like, the theme song underlying that is Best Friend by Saweetie and Doja Cat.
Doja Cat. That's my theme song for Luna. Whenever her, like, we're walking, her ears are bouncing, it bounces to the beat of, that's my best friend. She a real bad. I just hate that it says she got her own money, because my best friend
doesn't.
Not Nan sent to her. That's a broke bitch.
As a broke best friend.
That's a broke bitch. Can I just say? Bree thinks, I trust him too. We trust each other. I don't know why. They're prescribing it to, like, the fanny flutters that Bree gets when she's in his presence. But, like, I mean, what came first? The chicken or the egg? The attraction or the magic? Who knows? We don't know. It helps that they are both aesthetically pleasing people.
But
tall
perhaps
and
it was their magic that fated them to have to interact with each other. Like, that he became the person that was assigned to her.
Because, like, she kind of acknowledged that he was attractive when she first saw him, but she wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they saw each other and were immediately like,
Gotta
oh,
give
I
me
have
some
a
of
crush
that.
on you. I feel like it also had to do with, like, the situations they're in and, like, the fact that they, like, suddenly want to help each other. He looks all heroic. She's like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a little bit.
When
like,
he whipped out that cane out of nowhere, she was like, wait a minute now.
She said, well, hold up.
So you're saying,
and, like, you know what I mean?
What
and
came
he's like,
first?
oh, no, I saw her.
The friendship,
like,
the attraction, or the hellhound?
I mean, we all know it's
A little bit of, it was a convergence of events.
It's like one of those things where, like, yeah, it might have happened
The trauma.
probably slower if they weren't in such a high stakes situation.
But
you know,
also...
like they could have been like, oh, we're homies. We like feel this like pull towards each other, and then ooh, something more. But this isn't this place for a slow burn. Because Demons is out here.
Demons
is paced
burning up. Things are burning up.
Things are happening at a fast pace. They just went through a trial. She just got on campus 4 days ago, and she already went through a trial.
It's a lot. It's a lot. A lot's happening, and they are leaning on each other, and we appreciate that. So, moving on. There's a lot of just like kind of like longing, intense staring at each other, heavy breathing, and then
sorry, not to do this. We were already talking about music. Anytime somebody says heavy breathing, my brain immediately goes to coughing, and I'm like, I start thinking about Pass That Dutch. Sorry, because you know it's like heavy breathing, coughing. When I hear the sound,
I'm sorry, I'm such a
sorry.
nerd.
It's not. When it's not relevant. It can be cut. It just
when I'm a Poke nerd, so when you say coughing, I think wheezing. I think Pokemon. So I was like, what?
Pokemon. I immediately thought Missy. Anyway,
I'm over here just being middle-aged because I thought none of that. I thought heavy breathing. I thought heavy-lidded eyes being heavy-lidded, which I still don't really understand. Half-lidded, I still don't really understand, but. When
the eyes
they look down and look up through the looking down, which doesn't seem attractive to me. It sounds sleepy, but sure. So they go through all of this. Will they want their kids to be high? Yeah.
Sorry.
So Nick asks pleasantly, "Will you sit with me?" And she says, "Sure."
After he arranged his pillows, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, well, because there was a lot of heavy breathing, and he saw that she was nervous and thought, let me like diffuse,
give her a break
from like my smolder. I smoldered too hard.
That's the thing. Like it's like we talked about this last episode. Like he's a little too intuitive. Like he's not oblivious at all. I feel like that makes it worse for Bree.
She don't stand a chance. Like I'm like the game that Nick has. Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, so this is my favorite part of the entire chapter, y'all. They doze off. She wakes up and it's about 1 a.m. and she's like, "Oh, I should go." And then Nick is like, "If you leave now, Cell will know you're still here and yell at both of us. Better to just
already
stay."
Knows. He
probably does.
Presences on the campus. He be knowing things.
That's probably why. Because didn't she get woken up by like a door slam? It's probably why.
Also, like,
so I was like, what the is she doing here?
He's like
front door slams downstairs.
Nick, like he feels Nick's feelings, and Nick has never probably felt that way around him before.
Nick is over here feeling just content, and Fella's like, "You just almost got snatched up by a hell snake. Why are you feeling so lovey-dovey over here? Why are you feeling so happy?
Ain't shit sweet.
Ain't nothing sweet. What is going on?"
He's like, "Excuse me, it is 1 o'clock in the morning. What is going on?"
Why am I sensing sunshine and roses when I still got hell snake blood on me and goop? Because the thing exploded in Cell's face, which is another thing I would have been pissed about. We ain't talk about that. He killed the man, or he killed the demon, and the demon guts exploded in his face. He's like, I am going on my like third shower because I just couldn't get it all out. There's just some stuff back here.
The whole lodge.
And while I'm pissed,
the campus, like the woods that he found Bree in, why is this all in Cell's plate? Seriously,
all of it.
Such a bad
and not Nan person to help him. But this is okay. So we're not at my favorite part. This is my favorite part. So he's like, "Stay." She's like, "Can't really argue with that. Plus, it's 1 a.m. A lot of adrenaline. I'm exhausted. I don't think I could leave if I want to." Still, I pull out my phone and text Alice to let her know where I am and that I'm okay.
Love that.
You know what that is?
Finally.
Gross.
Gross.
Someone pull out that gift because it might be 1 in the morning, and Alice might be fretfully asleep now. But when she wake up, panic awake, and and you have that anxiety wake you up because Bree still ain't home, she'll look at her
like,
phone.
Where's Bree?
And she'll have a text.
Another reason why Bree probably woke up aside Cell slamming the door is that panic, the anxiety of like, oh crap, my hair. Like, like,
Man.
like, I don't have my pillow. I ain't got the scarf.
She was.
I love that.
I didn't. Yeah.
I know she
definitely was like, damn.
She's like, can I ask Felicity for a scarf? But I ain't trying to make it. Like,
right.
I'm not trying to blow up that I'm over here in Nick's room either. Like, what do I do?
She's over here, like, and also I love this. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I've definitely been in that spot where you're like laying down next to a person and you're awkward, like, should I get up? Do I get up? I do this a lot with my dog, which is hilarious, but it's like if I move, she's gonna move, but she's sleeping real good, so I'm trying not to, but I need to get up and get my scarf or something. And so she's over here like, how do I do this? And before she can slip off the bed, Nick starts to speak and just tells her what's what. So he's talking about his mother and how growing up, most parents, like his mom came from a vassal family but never wanted to scion, and her parents thought marrying this scion of Arthur was just as good, if not better. So she was never going to be called or anything, but she was definitely a part of the world. And then when Nick was born, the man that she married was like a dance mom. It's the only way that we can really explain it. He was a pageant queen mom, like started to started a training regimen when he was like
8,
could walk, basically. Not even 8, because before then, didn't send him to school. He was homeschooled, and then when he turned 8 is when his dad started bringing in other lieges to extend his training, and told them not to go easy on Nick because he wasn't really a kid. He was their king, and his mother would have to like see her 8-year-old baby coming home with bruises and broken. He said it's not the broken bones or the bruises, the black eyes or the concussions that keep me up at night. Concussions as a child are so insane. And he's already been concussed like twice this week. CRT.
2 days.
CRT is...
And the thing is like... The thing is, too, is like, then you can kind of see how... Obviously, he has William and, like, the other scions of Gawain. He says, like, oh, they healed me or whatever. So, but it's, like, one of those things where then you start to, like... You can see how he's like, oh, yeah, it's not a big deal. I feel like I bumped my head, whatever. It's like you become desensitized to that, or it's like, no, bro.
Because you let them desensitize you. Your mother was the one.
Yeah, literally.
Like, that was what they were training you to do, was be desensitized from the cruelty that these adults and abuse that these adults were putting onto you. And your mom was the one person who actually had your actual literal care as a being, as a child, on her. If this is all, like, a tirade that could, like, plenty of people have gone on, so like I'm not gonna overextend it. Just think about if CPS actually cared enough about rich white kids, parents or whatever, and like actually prosecuting them, like prime candidate to get out of that house. Like prime, they would pull Nick on out of there. He's come home with bruises and concussions, and you don't have any sports or anything else. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and not that it's a good like answer.
Even with
like,
sports, though, they would pull you because they'd be like, you obviously are not, like, your son, you should have pulled your son out of that sport. But here's the thing is that his dad never even let him get, and this is, like, something you see a lot with, like, again, cults and, like, fundamental, like, religious cults and things like that, where he pulled him out, he was homeschooled. So he didn't have like a third place where someone else could even see and be like, oh, this is strange, right? Or like, this is like not okay. It was just his mom. And we find out that his mom has no power. So, he, like as you said, it wasn't the broken bones, the bruises, the black eyes, or the concussions. Most of those were healed by the sign of Gawain. It was the look in my mother's eyes when I'd come inside, like the sight of me was carving holes into her heart. And then her mother and her father his mother and father would fight on those days when he would come home really beat up. Until one night she had enough and she grabbed Nick in the middle of the night and said, we out. Grab your stuff, be quiet. Martin follows them in the middle of the night. They only got like a mile away. This is like the thing that like really creeps me out is like we made it about a mile out of town before these black cars surrounded us. Dad comes out from one of them and he's frightened and angry. He was scared because he thought that they'd both been kidnapped by Shadowborn, which is like, you were never called. How are you this?
Mom.
You were never called. Your father was never called. His father was never called. How are you this paranoid about Shadowborns coming to take you?
I mean, it's not like they aren't around, you know what I mean? Like, other scions have gotten awakened. So, like, I feel like it's a valid thought.
Yeah, I think it's just like, it's a top,
in terms of, like,
fear that he had. It's not even, he didn't have a fear that, oh, my wife's going to leave me. He had a fear of, my fear, people who are more powerful than me are the Shadowborn. No one else could ever take people away from me than the Shadowborn. So that's automatically, logistically in his brain, who would be responsible for taking
I'm not saying that it's like an irrational fear. I'm saying that like this system has set them up to be so on high alert and paranoid about something like this happening where it's not actually happen. You know, like even you saw before these last like 3 attacks or something like that when Cell was ranting about Bree being a demon, and I think it was William or something was like, they don't come in our territory like this. Like this isn't like how they would normally behave. Like, right? Obviously right now we're in a heightened time, more of them are crossing over and stuff like that, but I'm saying like this cult has whipped them up into such a frenzy that they think that they are on constant alert for like Shadowborn when actual like truth bears out. It gives me like kind of QAnon, right? Where like the conspiracy is this, and you say, well, here are the facts, and they're like, well, no, that is just built up to like further show you this conspiracy, right? Like, oh, they want you to think this and this because there actually is, you know, whatever. And it's like it just goes so deep, and there's always another like layer to their paranoia that like it's very hard to hold on to reality. So he thinks that they were taken by the Shadowborn, realizes that Noah, his wife, was trying to kidnap the son, basically. He took Nick. The regents, or a Merlin, took his mom. A Merlin I'd never met took my mother away without letting either of us say goodbye. And then the next time that Nick saw her was a few weeks later. He ran up to his mother, and his mother had no idea who he was. And so he spent years researching Merlin's mesmers, trying to figure out how to break what they'd done. Extracting a mother's child from her psyche is mesmer work that only a master Merlin could do. And so when he met Bree and realized that Bree could break Cell's mesmer, he thought that maybe he'd missed something and they could work together to, like, possibly go and, like, get his mom back. And Bree thinks, that's what I saw in his eyes that first night at the lodge, hope. It is so heartbreaking to, like, read. And to think about, like, I'm glad that, like, when I reread it this time, I had our last episode in my head of, like, you know, B being like, they're a cult. Because it's, like, honestly, the only person who's looking out for Nick's holistic well-being, not just like making sure he's prepared to be the Scion of Arthur and he's trained and all this stuff, and like you see this a lot with like athletes too. It's like it's a big misconception that people make about training and things, that they don't give themselves breaks, they don't give themselves like enough cool down time. They'll literally work them, like, you see, like, with some kids and stuff who start to have, like, heart conditions because they're, like, overworking their bodies. A part of his training should have also been rest and
play,
great
like he's a kid.
socialization and
Take him to the park.
yeah. and also like to show him what he's fighting for, right? Give him some good memories.
Yeah.
Like if you're supposed to be fighting demons for the greater humankind, but all you know is training and fighting and getting the crap kicked out of you, you're like, what am I fighting for? What are we saving? This world is. That's how I feel about zombies. Like the world that we live in right now. Like once the zombies come or whatever, like what you want me to save this? Rent?
You gotta
Capitalism?
Beyonce concerts. You can be like, oh, I'm fighting for a world where I can have more Beyonce concerts.
Exactly.
Okay?
Right.
I'm fighting
Literally.
for the future of the NSYNC reunion. I gotta get to the point of seeing them live. If that is not a hope that I can physically see and like mentally like reach out to, then like what is the point?
I think that's partially why whenever we got to the last chapter or a couple of chapters ago where he talked about his father having picked the trip or whatever to Wells or whatever, and I'm like, did he ever get to go to like Disney, like just a kid friendly place to just run around and be a child? Like did like his mom get to pick one year? Did he get to pick one year? Like was it all just what his father wanted to do? And I feel like it was all what his father wanted to. Like, did he ever have a moment where he was just like, I made wholesome memories that had nothing to do with me being an upcoming sign of author or anything like that? And then I do appreciate that Nick has come to a place in his journey where he, like, as easy as a child of divorce, so fighting parents, all that, to internalize something as a child of being like your fault. Like one day your mom was there, the next day she doesn't even know who you are. Like he could have really easily internalized that as that being his fault because she was worried about him and how he was bruised and he caused the arguments, and then after one of their arguments she wanted to take him away and now she's gone because of him. Like he could easily have internalized it that way. So even without it seeming like he actually got therapy or assistance to work through the process, I'm glad to see that he like is able to put the blame on who's actually responsible and is looking for answers regarding like the mesmer and not necessarily on like what did I do wrong, why can't I be better, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I also like applaud him for also kind of really understanding the like system too, because not to excuse Lord or Martin Davis, because like your traumas inform who you are, but at a certain point it is also it's on you to kind of like recognize and work through those traumas, right? Like
and
we
then
all
not perpetuate
have
them.
Exactly, like we all have things, and it's up to you at a certain point to like not perpetuate that trauma. But unfortunately, Martin Davis grew up in the same environment and he just bought in. And so like Nick is the one who's hopefully breaking this like institutionalized, like this passed down trauma from generation to generation. But also recognizing too that like his dad was terrified because of the Shadowborn, and his dad didn't really think that his mom would do this. And also like wasn't aware of like knew that she would be in trouble from the regents, but wasn't, from what we know of, like involved in exactly how far that they would take that kind of punishment. And when Nick did see his mom and realized that she didn't recognize him, he moved, like they packed up and moved so that at least Nick wouldn't be, looking over his shoulder every couple of whatever, looking for his mom, right? Like they're not going to run into her randomly, which would just re-traumatize the kid. I don't know. That level of trauma, I don't know if you can be re-traumatized.
Yeah.
I'll traumatize him physically, but like I draw the line at his
I know,
mother.
but I'm saying if you know that your mother does not recognize you, I don't know how much worse it is to like be confronted with it versus it not having to be confronted with it, but you still know that they like. I can't fathom waking up one day and my mom just not like immediately too, as opposed to like like a slow decline dementia. I'm thinking about my grandmother and dementia and stuff like that, but that was like a slow. You can kind of prepare yourself and you can see them losing bits of themselves, but this was like Where here, she's the only one who was like really like baby, you know, like treated me like a child and like obviously caring for me, and I could see her hurt in my hurt type of thing. To a few weeks later, I haven't seen her, I haven't heard from her, and then I'd see her and nothing. And so I do appreciate like Nick saying like, you know, for a long time he like, or well, they moved. Sel comes and moves with them. They take the king's. He takes the King's Mage oath, and all he could think about was how much he hated Merlins, for being monsters, and how he didn't want this strange boy in our house. How like strange it was for this strange boy, this boy his own age, to be pledging himself to his protection. And he said, I blamed my dad for calling the regents that night, but in the end, it was Arthur who drove my parents apart. And I'm so angry with him. I'm angry with the 6th century ghost. And, like, hell yeah. As you should, because Arthur sucks.
Yeah. I love that he's already starting the line for, like, okay, people got beef with Arthur, like, to this day. Not on some, like, old round table, like, beef, like, legit present day beef.
Yeah, with Arthur is still causing damage.
Yeah, before Arthur can run up. It's on site with Arthur, like.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And so he says he's like furious at this world. He's mad at all of it, right? And so he stopped hanging out with everyone. He did all he could to make it so that Arthur wouldn't even want to call him, which is a very interesting. It seems like such like a child's reaction to something that like everyone else in this world sees as kind of inevitable, right?
It's not fully thought out,
but it's not fully thought out at all. But like you can kind of see the logic of like, maybe I will disgust Arthur so much that he'll just skip me and go to the next guy, you know?
Right.
What is it? The line is law, but like.
There's
Arthur
10 other people behind him already, so
right, but like
Albert,
he's mad at the 6th century ghost, right? But like, so in his brain, like Arthur is making his parents fight. Arthur is pulling his parents apart. Arthur is this like sentient, like puppet, all knowing, all seeing puppet master pulling the strings. And so, if I just make Arthur disappointed enough in me, he'll go to someone else, as opposed to like Arthur is this like weird thing in his genes, sitting in his blood. Waiting to be unlocked.
Awakened,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So he pushed it all away for so long, and then he was sometimes he's not even sure if he'll be able to hear Arthur if he calls, and
spoiler alert, he won't.
But also, Arthur not calling him. Arthur not blowing up his
not
line.
Calling you.
No,
he not even worried about you.
And so then Bree thinks about Sel mentioning the same thing. And it's, like, a really funny thing that just, that whole passage, like, really broke my heart. But it also reminded me of, like, how young these kids are. Because it's a very, like you said, like, an elementary school understanding of, like, what this is. But also seeing the places in which that indoctrination and, like, the magic and science kind of butt heads. Because you got Sel and Nick thinking that this 6th century ghost is like, yeah, I'm not going to call him. I'll call someone else. And it doesn't seem like that's how that's going to work at all. Because.
I mean, I feel like when Sel said it, he was just saying it to be nasty. Like, I think he is aware that that's not how it works, you know?
Because if Arthur the ghost did have some more power over it, I doubt he would call Bree who has not been a part of this world, doesn't know, and also, fuck Arthur. Does not revere that man, that ghost.
Yeah.
You could get gone. So then they wake up, Nick's showering, it's 7:30, and then she's still worried about her hair, as she should, you know?
She just washed it. You just washed your hair.
Come on.
The first night after you washing your hair, you have done nothing?
I'm sorry.
No protection.
If what she learns from Patricia does not inspire her to, leave these people alone, I feel like this should, because it's too much. It's
She like
too much stress. I need to figure out
apologizes
what the
to
hell
her
I'm gonna do with my
curls,
hair.
and I feel that
Like
so
she
much.
needs to go get some box braids, and
Yes.
she's gonna keep doing that.
If you're gonna be
She
out
needs to
here
braid her
running the
hair up.
streets, like come
Some
on,
Marley twist, something.
Listen,
Cornrows,
I told you guys
can't
this.
and they
look
don't
like
care
this.
about you like that, because that's another thing. Like one time, it's a random story. One time I was out with Darren and his friends, like back when we lived in Queens, and they were Latinx, and they like, but not Afro Latinx, just like mestizo. And we were hanging out with them, and it was late at night, and I was like, oh, we gotta get going. And they were like, well, you can stay over if you wanted to. I was like, nah, I gotta get home. They're like, what is it? You worried about your hair? We got a scarf back here. I was like, what? They're like, you didn't think we knew about that, did you? I was like, what? I'm like, well,
Because
that
it is
make it more hospitable for me. Actually, that does help. So if the lodge were just to have a backup little linen closet with some like satin pillowcases or something, it would be slightly more hospitable for Bree.
It was literally, you know how when you walk into a hotel and you see that rainfall shower and you're like, oh,
that ain't
God.
For me.
That's
my
not.
God.
It's gonna be one of those days. That's kind of how I feel like Bree was waking up at the lodge. But like also, I told you guys this. I just did an impromptu wash night because I had this squatter in my home, and every time I tried to take a shower for the 2 weeks that Ollie was here, Luna would be like, is not like, she'll be near me in the bathroom, but she's not a stick close, but her whole head would be in the shower like, are you done yet? Because I'm gonna kill this dog. I need you to run interference. And so he was gone on Friday night, and I was going to this concert on Saturday, and I was like, I really need to wash my hair. Like, I've been putting it off I was supposed to wash it a week and a half ago, and I've been putting it off, and it's disgusting now. Not only that, but I had spent like the last 2 weeks needing to wash my hair and just passing out, so I had not wrapped it. I ain't put not Nan, or I put my scarf on and it'd fall off early, and normally I would know and try to help myself out a little bit. I was looking rough, y'all. Don't do puppies. They're cute, but goddamn, especially feral ones. Feral puppies are a whole breed. Anyway, I did the Friday night.
Yeah. Call
me Bree Matthews. I did it, but it was necessary. I felt like I did have demon skunk in my hair.
Yeah.
The demon was named Ollie and Oliver, but like from 17th Street, but still, it was there. I couldn't imagine. Last night I got home really late, but I was at my parents' house, and I still had things, and I did what needed to be done. I could not imagine waking up after that to this. And shout out to Nick. He tries. He gives her this. He makes this cute little like welcoming basket thing. She said,
Google exists. Like just.
But I think it's also like what they had around.
Like what they have out hand. Yeah. I'm like there's nobody in there needs a Y2 comb.
Right, I'm like, you gotta
he needed to DoorDash.
Like, somebody ran to the store and bring back a pic. Like, right? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Now that DoorDash has like the thing where you can go to like the CVS and stuff like that, like he needed to DoorDash some stuff. It wasn't just gonna be what they had, but he did his best. He gave her a little like travel toothbrush, toothpaste.
But I hope he is looking for future encounters to be similar, and therefore will prepare for the next time.
But
she needs to.
I will say this though, it was a comb. She said a comb I'll never be able to use, but
a comb is there.
Not only a comb, a washcloth, soap and a washcloth.
Because they don't be keeping no washcloths either. That'd be killing me.
He's halfway there.
I was amazed when that whole thing popped off.
2/3, 66%. He's,
But anyway, so she's trying to, she runs off. She brushes her teeth. She's like, I gotta get out of here. It's early enough. I can still have time to go to class. Nick's like, I'll walk you home, or walk you back to campus. And then Nick has this game. It's just game, okay? They're talking a little bit. He's like, you feeling me, I'm feeling you too, boo. Don't do this thing where you get shy. Don't do this thing where you don't believe me, because I really want to kiss you. And then they start kissing. And then they kiss. And then we kiss. I'm going fast because this is already taking too long. And then...
But, yeah.
Well, before they kiss, though.
This is happening.
I mean, during the kiss, why
Well, no.
it was hilarious as well.
How it gets regular is hilarious, but, like, when she's like, I'm not used to feeling this way, blah, blah, blah. But right before they kiss, he says, you're not a damsel to me. He's like, she says damsels in distress are activate your hero mode, right? Because he's like, you've been through this. When you got taken by that Uchel, like, I've never felt, like, this stress that I felt in that moment. And he said, you're not a damsel to me, Bree. You're a warrior. You're strong, you're beautiful, and you're brilliant and brave. And I really like to kiss you. Put that shit in the Louvre, okay? The Museum of Modern Game. Nick Davis.
Yeah. Just call him Steph Curry, you know?
Whew. Chef cooking up shots. And sinking them.
Yeah.
A whole new playbook. Good Lord. So then they start kissing. And then
distressing.
The birds sounds fade. The birds are gone. She is just in it. And here come Russ and Evan Cooper being like...
Well, I'll say, it's really funny to read this and remember that Evan is...
A demon?
Like, a demon.
Is he a demon at this point?
I think so. I feel like he's been one for a minute. I don't remember exactly. I don't know if it ever says exactly when he is, but I feel like he's been a demon.
He on demon time. They said, Nick, is that you?
Yeah.
Who's that? Oh, whoa. Evan and Crow's, okay, y'all.
And Russ, who just had his hormones turned up on 11, is all over in here too. That's hilarious to me.
Russ is like, is this a good morning kiss or a good night kiss? What we got going on here? And Bree is trying to literally hide in Nick's skin.
Mm-hmm.
I think they saw you, girl. The curls.
Yeah, it's too late.
The skin
It's
tone.
too late, bro.
You have not changed your clothes from yesterday. They saw you.
You ain't changed that too.
And she's not facing them, so they see her back. It's not like Nick has his back to them and so is hiding her. Like, you're busted. Sorry.
Busted. And it's fine. Who's Russ to talk?
Yeah.
Russ was out here doing...
We all know what Russ is on right now. But
doing
Awakening. It's hilarious.
You know what I mean?
It's not going to just stay between Russ and Evan. It's not going to stay.
No, everybody knows.
Everybody knows, but I'm also saying, like, don't be embarrassed because if Russ is out here with Felicity doing American Ninja Warrior type shit after they got awakened, flying through the air, pushing folk.
Oh my God.
And then being like, snickering and shit. So they're not like, you know, they're gonna rag you like Evan is on some frat boy, like, okay, oh shit, you know.
Yeah.
But it's all in good fun. And it's not Vaughn. But also this is not gonna help you with Vaughn. Someone is okay.
Who cares?
Who cares?
You know?
Because the kiss made the bird stopped. You ain't hear nothing. Okay? That kiss put you...
And Nick doesn't want to choose Vaughn anyway. He was already said, he was like, this dude keeps asking me to
said,
spar. Like,
he said, bro-y? Is that a word?
Said,
I don't know if that's a word, but that's the vibe, and I'm not on it.
That's the vibe. He's not getting called by me. Sorry.
It won't be me.
To happen. We're not, we won't be bonded.
I love that for him and whoever he squires for, but it won't be me. And that's how it ends. For the first time in a long time, Bree lets herself enjoy a moment of warmth and safety without wondering if it's real. Because she knows it's real. Because Nick has that kind of game that lets you know, like, yeah, I'm being smooth talked. Yes, applying pressure is being applied. He is applying pressure. But I also know that I'm the only one he's applying pressure to. I'm not going to turn around and Sar's ass is looking at me. Well, I mean, Sar's not bad enough for the same team. I don't know, one of them other girls in the thing. He's not applying pressure to Felicity as well, right? Like, he is focused. Love this.
Bree should always question her safety because she's not safe in the order. Period.
But her heart is safe with Nick.
Is it?
Is it? It is right now. Shut up, Porshèa. Let us have this. They kind of busy right now.
That's how you know how hard it is for me to for me dating.
Person's
wise.
like, can't trust it.
Can't trust anything.
Look at you, done upset Luna. She said love.
Actually, I think Luna was like,
she got up and said, "How dare you question love?" Or whatever this is.
I don't trust this right now. In fact, I don't trust my dream right now. Let me tell you about how I just had this dream. I do not trust.
Wizard Team is back for a new season, and with that comes a few changes. The one we're most excited about, other than reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, is that the Patreon chat is back. Support our work by becoming a B&C baddie at any tier, and you'll be able to watch us record live weekly, have your thoughts included on the podcast, and interact with other baddies. Go to patreon.com/blacknerdscreate to join. So, chapter 25, which also kicks off day 6 of Bree being at this school. That has not been a week yet. Like, this is actually insane. We're still not a week. So much has happened.
It's when they said which day it was, I was like, it's not even the next Tuesday. Like, we have not had a full week.
That's what I'm like. It's very distressing to me, but I'm very sorry to them. I just would not have done this. Like, I would have gone to sleep by now.
Exactly. I'm like,
you know what? Nick would have been, even last night, the night before when Nick was like, you want to, or 2 nights ago when he was like, we can talk before dinner. I'd be like, you know what?
I'm going to go home and I'm going to lay down.
I'm going to have to miss that one.
And I'm going to curl up tomorrow with my blanket.
Would have missed the whole page trial. Would have woke up and been like, oh, damn. Y'all had a trial after dinner? My bad.
I would have been tuckered out.
My phone was on Do Not Disturb. I was knocked. But yeah, so Bree and Nick have been texting. They haven't seen each other since the kiss, but they've been texting. She's very giddy. It's all, new. So yeah, she's been having her like, I like this new boy. We're talking. It's great. I'm all giddy about it. Nick invites her to hang out with some of the other Legendborn tonight. So she texts Alice about it. Alice immediately calls, like any good best friend should. And they're trying to figure out, like, what does this mean? Is it a date? What's Bree gonna wear? All the like really cute teen stuff. They're talking about like what they're gonna wear. Alice is going home, so she's because it's the weekend now. It's Friday night, or will be Friday night.
Thank God it's Friday
Alice won't be able
night.
she won't be able to help Bree figure out what to wear and all that kind of stuff. So they're having a whole squee moment, but at the same time, Bree is on her way to meet Porshèa, so they can't have the full teen moment here, because then Bree has to go and talk to Porshèa, who has decided to help Bree and teach her about Root. They have met in the university graveyard, which
absolutely not.
Porshèa calls. She says, we're here to find the root of Root, because she's an adult and loves a pun. And it's like the second time where Bree's like, I don't know what you really mean by this, but I can tell that you find it very clever, and like as a teenager, no thanks.
But also as someone who knows that I can learn, from you.
Exactly.
You let the people have their jollies. You just be like,
yeah.
All right.
I'm not trying to yuck your yum, but also,
you got
it's
it.
a constant reminder that you are an adult. You are
Yeah.
You are old. Not even an
How
adult. You are old.
you.
It's very embarrassing.
So the graveyard is for people associated with the school. It's sprawling. It's divided into different sections. There are like folks who have rich families, they have the tombs and like the full thing. They're like headstones, and it's a whole thing. It was built after like one of the students passed away, close to its founding, and since then has just kind of been built out. But then they get to this grove, and there's only a few stone markers. Bree is like, it's barely filled. But Patricia says, "Oh, it's filled. This wall marks where the segregation begins. All the black folks are buried in these two sections. Some were enslaved folk owned by faculty and kept on campus to help build and maintain the school. Some were servants or freed folk after slavery ended in this part of the Confederacy. That memorial over at the Arboretum.
Arboretum.
I don't think I've ever said that word out loud. That's crazy.
Arboretum.
Is a pretty Arboretum. Thank you. I'm like, that's wild.
It's like whenever you see the word and you know it on sight, like you can sight read it, but you're
like I know what that is, but how have I never said it out loud? Well, we've all learned something new today. Is a pretty acknowledgement, the polite one, but the blood's buried here. Almost all of these graves are unmarked. People used field stones or wooden crosses, whatever someone could afford or was deemed worthy. Some graves still have a bit of yucca or periwinkle or a tree you can tell was planted deliberately. Families and community members did that. In the 80s, folks used this section for football game parking, so who knows what was destroyed
and I
then.
believe it. Tailgating.
100%.
Like, nobody uses this part of the land. Oh, wait, bodies are buried here? Our bad. And you're like, oh, it's the 80s. People should know better than. Did they? Did they, though?
No. I mean, even now, they're, like, building, like, malls and buildings and homes and stuff over graves. So, even ones that are clearly marked. So, it's not...
Do you know how many 70s and shows set in the 70s and 80s and 90s would have episodes about, like, stuff being built on native burial grounds and that just being, like, a whimsical way that something is, like, haunted? Like, it's haunted by the people that we took the land from because we just desecrated the land by doing all kinds of horrible things on it to the people who were here. And now we're haunted.
And just, like...
And you're like, what
it's
is
just,
wrong
yeah,
with
it's
y'all?
no respect for people in living or dead.
No.
So they did a preservation study not long ago using radar of some sort, found almost 500 unmarked graves in the ground in these two sections and one on the other side of the wall. But a medium, which is another branch of rootcraft, could have told them that. So learning all of this, Bree is, understandably, like, very apprehensive, doesn't want to walk on the grass, you know what I mean? Like, she's just feeling like
they've already been disrespected. Why would she want to, like, ask?
Exactly, like, she doesn't want to be a part of that. But Patricia is like, it's okay, because we're gonna acknowledge and thank them, right? It's not like we're just here to take, it's fine if you walk in. There's one quote that I love, and I think I skipped over it by accident, but where she's coming to the graveyard and she's like, this is not what I imagined therapy to be. This is not what anyone's therapy looks like. I'm fairly positive. Cause no, it's not.
It is not.
Other stuff for sure. And especially what we're about to get into is just like, not at all.
Definitely
I mean,
not.
Like, y'all are gonna be out here doing memory walks and all of this.
Work through your ancestral generational trauma by walking along as the trauma's happening. Great. 5 stars.
For free $99. Well, I mean, I don't know. How much is her dad paying for this?
or the school, if it's like, school services or whatever.
Yeah. So in this, so Patricia has a bunch of ancestors in this graveyard. So she, and that's who they're going to be asking for guidance and, like, for this demonstration for Bree of what, how root works. But in this, Bree is feeling this, like, disconnect from her family on her mom's side. She doesn't have family on her mom's side, basically. Like, her mom didn't have any siblings. She doesn't have any cousins. She didn't even know her grandmother. Her grandmother died before she was born. And then this quote says, "Frustration sparks in me like a match has struck my insides, turned them into fire. Suddenly, my skin feels too tight all over my body. The fine hairs on the back of my neck lift. My vision blurs. I don't need to be reminded how alone I am, how lost." And this is always interesting to me. Like, it's already happened a couple of times, of these moments where Bree is feeling lost or like alone, disconnected from her family and like that lineage. Um, and it's directly triggering her magic. And she's not completely like understanding that like all of those feelings that she's feeling are not purely emotional.
Yeah.
Like I think they're triggered by emotions for sure, but it's also not just emotions, because it's not like every time she's upset she feels this way. It's also like when she's thinking about specific things that like
Especially like her
are
history.
magical reactions.
Yeah,
Right. She's literally
her
thinking
family.
about her mom, her grandmother, her, going back. And those are the people who are connected to her through that magic that she's been suppressing. So it's just such a clever, like, thing that's happening there. Like, the thought of her line triggering that magic. Yeah. So, shout out to Tracy for that. So Patricia kind of starts explaining a little bit more about root, and some of the other like words for it: magic, ether, spirit. There are different names, traditions, customs attached to it for that energy across cultures. So I really like that. Like, there's this, they have different ideas about what that energy can do, what it's for, who can use it, in what way do you use it. The problem in this sort of case is that, like, there's clearly like it exists all over the world. And here comes the order being like, you can only use it this way. We're the only ones authorized to use it. If you, we've talked about this before, like if you don't use it in the way that we deem correct,
you're a demon.
Or if you use it at all, you're a demon or associated with the Shadowborn. Meanwhile, it's an energy and a resource that people have been using for a millennia across the entire world. It's not like the Order brought it with them everywhere, right? Like, they're not the center of this world.
It's also really interesting too, because you think about like even demons, because we meet some more what are they called? Cambions. Outside of the Order in Bloodmark, and it's like even the demon thing is a little bit more like nuanced.
Of course,
right?
It is.
Obviously, it is, but like it's just it's so audacious to have this group, which is like, again, relatively small when you think in terms of like the global magic users as well, but they're just very privileged, connected, and controlling of certain things that like they're just pushing their will. It's shout out to Tracy, man.
Yeah, I really love how expansive this like magic system is, honestly. And I like that in this book, obviously it's the first one, that there are nods to it, so it's not like we get to the second book and it's like, oh, it's a whole new world. It's like all these things have been hinted at already, and are kind of just like, you can kind of just guess. You can tell that it's more than just what the Order has been talking about. So Patricia explains that the dead have the most access to root, and then supernatural beings, so like demons. The living have to borrow, bargain for, or steal the use of magic. Root crafters specifically borrow. They believe that the energy is not for them to own. So they make offerings to their ancestors so that they will share root with them. Once it's returned, then they thank them. So it's like it's more of a temporary thing. It passes through you, you give it back. So it's interesting though, because like as Patricia is gathering root, then Bree starts to have that same feeling. So like, when Cell looks at her, she can feel like his magic. And so as Patricia is gathering root, she looks at Bree and Bree can feel that magic. So that's, cool little continuity thing. So then Patricia takes Bree's hands and the world around them twists, then disappears.
This is like
Things
my,
about
my favorite part.
No, it's so good. I like honestly. Yeah, it's just so good.
I just shout out to Luna, who we were on a walk when I got to this chapter, and we were already like kind of deep into the walk, and I said, "Oh, bitch, we walking today.
We're gonna keep going.
We going until the wheels fall off because I am not pausing."
So funny. It's so good.
And hence we start part 3, Roots. And we started with, and I quote the Anastasia movie here, "A journey to the past." And Dr. Hartwood / Patricia was not very clear about what they were doing in gathering the root and talking and invoking the ancestors. So that is literally what she's doing. She's used proximity to an ancestor, the grave, to bring Bree along a memory walk that is chosen by Dr. Hartwood / Patricia's ancestor without them being detected within the memory, because the memory's already happened and they are just there for the ride along. Bree mentions that she's never seen anything on par related to like the order and using their magic this way. The memory itself is a display of a healing rootcraft. So what happens when she and Patricia follow along with her ancestor is they see two women. One of the women is her and going through different emotions, and the other one is saying hold tight, Mary's coming. When Mary comes, we witness her doing healing rootcraft, and this is all happening because the woman who was hurt, Abby, has been attacked. She was in trouble, and they went to the military that was there because this is during the time of Reconstruction in 1865, and so they went to a military person to be like, hey, she's in trouble, and they did not give assistance, and then instead were put on the crosshairs of Carr, who ended up whipping Abby as if she were still enslaved by this person. When Bree sees Mary do the healing root work, she notices the root or the aether, or for what Bree says is mage flame, that occurs as she's healing. And Dr. Hartwood is taken aback when Bree calls this mage flame. She doesn't say anything at the moment, but she kind of just looks at Bree weird. And Bree in turn is taken aback when the energy that the ancestors and the herbs lent for the healing leaves Abby still hurt, still in pain, and not fully healed. And she asks Dr. Hartwood, what's going on? Why isn't she fully healed? And Dr. Hartwood says, oh, she has enough to still continue to heal. Her body will take care of the worst and the rest. And Bree can't help but to consider it, along with how swiftly and fully William's healing works, and how that there are more results for the person who is being healed, and William does not have a recoil. However, Mary is spent, and the root and the herbs that she used are completely worn out. They're done. So
I will say it's interesting just to see an immediate, again, you say, he doesn't have a recoil, but in some ways he does. It's just, he has abatement. It's there's always a cost to, it's not an immediate thing. It's not every time. I guess he gets a little tired or whatever, but it's not every time he uses ether he has, he can only do so much. He doesn't really have limits in the way that Mary does, like you said. And it's because of the way that they, Gawain stole that magic.
But also it's
passing it through.
It's not
versus
of recoil, like it doesn't have a recoil that is any different than any other scion. Like everyone's abatement,
right?
is
Yeah,
about
of
the
course,
same.
it's the
Yeah.
same. It's about the same. But I'm saying like you kind of can see the ways that using this magic still has a cost regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're using it in certain ways, you're not like she's not using that and like helping with that, and then, or I guess I'll say like because she's borrowing it and not like keeping it for herself, that recoil is, or that like backlash or whatever is smaller and is in that moment. She can recover from that versus William
It
or another
reminds me-
scion. Like it's a bigger take, and so then they have to give more, I guess.
It reminds me a lot of like when you think about conversations around like sustainability and stuff, and then a lot of the earlier like climate change denialism and stuff like that. It's a matter of understanding long-term consequences versus short-term consequences. And to me, when you put it in that light, like abatement and losing your and like dying by 35 is a much bigger consequence than feeling a little bit sick or but like being able to like heal yourself, right? Or being spent and exhausted for a short amount of time, like it's a short-term consequence that might be inconvenient in the moment, but like long-term is better not only for the root worker but also for the magic, the work, like the earth, it just seems much more of a complementary way of using it as opposed to like hoarding all of that magic and then losing your life at 35. But it also is interesting that you kind of get the sense like Patricia understands that that cost more and understands what the trade-off is as she's explaining it to Bree, and that like the order doesn't actually understand that like abatement, I mean they might say like, oh, the cost of having magic in general is this dying early, but they don't understand that like maybe if we didn't hoard the magic that wouldn't actually be the cost, right? So
No, they're more likely to be like, because other people have magic, that's stolen magic, and we're going to steal their magic too, because how dare they have magic? We should have all the magic and be able to use it for...
right, I mean, but I'm sure that if you asked someone from the order, I'm not sure, but I would think that if you ask someone from the order, like, does anyone who uses root or is called can see ether that's not a demon, because they do know that those people exist, even though they think that they stole it, they probably assume that they all have abatement. Or a form of that, right? But that's only, and we learn like in Bloodmark and stuff, it's tied to like tying that magic to your blood. It's not tied to. It's not.
We learned that here.
Yeah,
In this
yeah,
chapter.
we do learn that here. Sorry, but like,
We see more of
we
it.
see more of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like, it's not actually a consequence of using ether or magic. Full stop. Like, there are plenty of people who use it, live long lives. Like, Patricia now is however old. I mean, at least in her 40s or something, So, Bree's finally seeing, like, oh, there's a whole nother philosophy to how you use this. And, like, I just bringing it back to, like, it just reminds me a lot of, like, the conversations between, like, sustainability, how to use things, and, like, even, like, white vegans who are like, everything is terrible, and you're like, well, no, sometimes you need to use, like, circle of life. Like, there is a moral or humane, I don't even know if humane is the right word, but there is a way to, like, use what the earth gives you without it being all or nothing that some people just don't understand.
Yeah. So after Bree witnesses all of this with Mary and the her Mary needing a moment to like pull herself together and lay down, she has a discussion with Patricia / Dr. Hartwood, and she follows up. Dr. Hotwood follows up on a discussion about, like you said, you saw something earlier, and Bree says, yes, Mage Flame. I saw her gather Aether/Root into her palm when she healed, before she healed Abby. It's the same color of the Aether that I saw surrounding the Unsung Founders Memorial. And Dr. Hartwood is surprised that Bree can see Aether, and Bree is surprised that she can't, which is hilarious. I love that about life. Like, you're like, I thought if we're magical, can we not all do magic the same? Then okay, that's something new,
right? And it like hints at the fact that something is different with Bree's.
Yeah, like there's a reason why her mama wasn't talking to the rest of the root crafters on campus,
right?
So
which is another like, talk to your daughter.
Yeah. Like, that's probably why she didn't want her to go on campus, because like, you're gonna run on campus and you're gonna talk to people that I don't learn and stuff. I don't want you to learn because I don't want you to continue on the family line. Like, I don't want you to do this. But that's what you get when you don't want to trust your kids about stuff. So it turns out that indeed very few root crafters, and specifically those are readers, mediums, and prophets, can see root and /Aether, and only then with limited time through assistance from the ancestors. Like, they're not like Bree and can just like look up and look around and just see it. Like, they would have to ask permission from an ancestor to be able to like see, and then only for as long as the ancestor would allow them to see.
And I didn't understand this part. This is just like my own clarification. Like, the order, like, Cell can see it, right? And like the order can see it, and so that's a part of.
It's after the oath.
After the oath.
Once they do the oath, that's how they're able. Remember they did the.
Yeah, but I was confused as to after the oath they can see like the Shadowborn and stuff, but they can, because Patricia can see.
They can see Mage Flame too.
Okay, because Patricia could see Shadowborn or like demons, right? But she can't see the ether. This is like where we kind of get like into like parsing. I was confused about, like, what is it that you can and can't see? Part.
I mean, maybe that's you asking because of Ruth, but we haven't gotten to Ruth yet.
Okay, I'll wait.
So.
But also, I think it depends, because like, didn't she say, you put it in the notes, like only certain.
Yeah,
only very
ones,
few root
and they kept
only specific ones can see. So maybe her. I think it just depends.
But I'm saying, like, I understand that like they can only see the root when they ask, and as long as the ancestors want them to, but you don't have to ask, or the ancestors don't have to grant you permission to see the Shadowborn or the demons, right? Like, if you can tap into root, you can see them.
What you're saying.
They're not tied. Like, those are two different.
They're different things.
That's what
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember any instances of root crafters talking about or seeing demons.
Because I feel like later in this book,
I mean, in this, even in this
big
chapter,
part, doesn't Patricia see?
But that's Ruth, and so Ruth could have easily, like, we may not have seen Ruth interact with an ancestor, and maybe Ruth was a reader, a medium, or, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know.
But they were in the next chapter, or not next chapter, in the next section, they talk about the Crossroads Man, and that's a.
Oh yeah.
Porshèa. So I think it's like, if you know, you know.
Or if
but one he's a stronger one who's like posing as human.
Right,
so
he was in human form, and he still had the tail of the eyes. So I don't think it's necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to get there.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't track it down. Sorry.
So. Continue. As Dr. Hartwood is questioning Bree about like her ability, she's asking, how do you're calling it Mage Flame, where did you learn those words, Bree? And Bree says, without like, just coming clean, from the Order of the Round Table. And I love the clutch your pearls moment, and this is one for Dr. Hartwood, where she is like, huh? Dismay overtakes her features, and suddenly the air in the cabin runs cool. Blood.
I always see that clip from, is it Candyman, where she's you don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. No.
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 No. That's what I pictured Patricia Harwood doing immediately when she said the
Just
order the round.
no, baby.
No. Shh. We don't do that. We don't do that.
So, and fear is
we don't do
plain
that
on
yet.
her face. And Bree automatically is like, oh, I might have messed up there. And Bree is like, stuttering. Is that another word for Legendborn? And
right.
the way you call Aether root, like, are we good? And Dr. Hood was like, no, it's not just a word. She wraps her hands around Bree's hands, drawing them together between their bodies. The softness of her skin is only a sheath. Underneath, her hands are unyielding steel. Bloodcrafters don't borrow power from the ancestors, they steal it. Bind it to their bodies for generations and generations. And Bree's like, I know about bloodlines, but she still feels like a pull of dread. What do they use their powers for? That's what they use their powers for, what they fight. And Dr. Harwood says, then you know their sins. Bloodcraft is a curse. Bloodcraft is a curse brought to life. And so I'm just like, I love this section. Okay, let me keep going. Like, Bree's still trying to explain and Dr. Harwood's not having that. She calls it capital C, colonizer magic.
Yeah.
Magic that costs and takes. Many practitioners face demons. Many of them face evil. But from the moment that their founders arrived, from the moment that they stole native homelands, the orders gave the demons plenty to feed on. They reap what their magic sows.
It's such a, like, I love it. I really do. Because like, y'all talking about, oh yeah, we saved the world and like demons feed on chaos. Who brought chaos to this place?
Like, you literally are your own worst problem. Like, and
like, if you could have just stayed and minded your business across the damn Atlantic, there wouldn't be a problem. But y'all are, because it's also like, it's not like y'all just came here and you're like undercover. Like, no, your vassals and pages and whatever are members of Congress. Like, y'all got the nuclear codes. Like, what do you mean?
You were big and bold from the moment your freaking ships decided to sail in the direction of the Americas. Because you went on to call the Americas Indias because you are like, I already know where I am.
Y'all are the folks.
Like,
y'all are the folks. Y'all didn't come later and try to try to get the privileges of being white. Like, no, y'all were on those front lines. The Revolutionary War, that was y'all. Y'all was fighting demons. Y'all already said that. Like,
your own demons. They are your own demons. You are literally waging war against the sins of your fathers and yourselves because y'all keep making the crap happen.
And then on top of that, literally as we speak, Lord Davis is opening up gates. So, like, it's literally, they're just, it's both,
layer upon layer.
I'm sorry, it's happening. You're doing it to yourself.
And I love the like the ways in which the like Dr. Patricia and like the root crafters and stuff like understand that immediately. Like, they clock them immediately. Just interesting how like the root crafters who came here around the same time as the colonizers, like, we were brought here, right? Like, we didn't come to this land on our own, but came to this land, understood, and I also get the feeling that, like, what you were talking about with how vast the world building is and, like, how much more it goes on outside of the order and stuff, that, like, root crafters in Africa and stuff, like, they just knew inherently, like, it's a give and take. It's not yours to keep. It's, it's an ecosystem, basically. You use what you need, you take what you need, or use what you need, give it back. You praise, you acknowledge, you thank, you know what I mean? And also, like, clocked immediately that what the colonizers were doing was the abomination. And yet the overarching, depending on where you find out about this, Bree, who is first introduced to this through the order, comes into this conversation thinking, I don't know how much she internalized or actually believes it, but comes into this conversation being told from the order that anyone using root that's not a part of the order is the abomination, is like demon-born, is, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's just interesting how quickly that's clocked as actually being like a perversion of what, you know, like we've been using root, we've been using it this way, we have seen none of these consequences until y'all got here and started binding shit to your blood.
And I like that, like I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but just that like we get them at the same time, because it could have happened in the way that it was written, that we could have been all in the order and have been like, have internalized that like this is the way things go, and then not until book 2 do we learn that like, oh shit, they like aren't right. But like from jump, it's very clear that even before we meet the root crafters, that the order is on some other shit. And then as we meet the root crafters at the same time as Bree is still learning these things and still trying to infiltrate the order, like you already are getting a different perspective. You're getting a nuanced view of like how this world and this magic works. Like, yeah, I love that. And it continues to like solidify that the order ain't shit. And like there's never a moment really where you're thinking of them as like these heroic people. It's really like it's a means to an end for Bree. And you know, things get more complicated and she does have like friendships within the order, but it's not like they're the end all be all. Like they're the villains.
Yes. And we're hearing from their own mouths like them ripping children out of their mother's arms, and you know what I mean? So like it's just like also compounding. Like not only are y'all, your internal system's fucked, but your entire belief system and how you've built this whole thing is fucked. Like it's a house of cards you're playing, and like whatever that like sand is, like they were never there's no solid ground for them, no moral high ground for them to stand on at any point ever. They are the baddies. Period.
Yeah.
No ambiguity there.
For me, all of this is like it gives that like the order is its own worst enemy, and it's like it almost feels kind of like they bring demons into being because of their ill works, and they're like, it's like those firefighters who set fires, or arsonists or whatever, and they're just
arson firefighters.
Yeah.
I've been watching Chicago Fire.
Yeah. When they do that, and they're like, they just want to have this heroic story for themselves, when they're really just like, no, but like you can't be the hero of a story that you are also the villain in. Like, we're not gonna play that. You're not like this weird anti-hero. You're not morally gray. Like, you literally are the issue here. And I love that. And I also, for a meme moment, it's giving me Kermit with like the hood on, facing him from the mirror. Like I just like, I love that as a visual for like who the order is at the end of the day. So after Dr. Hartwood drops the mic on the ancestors and the curse of their own colonization magic, Bree goes from having this like revelation to noticing that the ancestor Louisa that they were following has gone from like just like being in the memory to looking in their direction. And Bree is like, I thought she couldn't see us, and Dr. Hartwood is like, she can't. And then Louisa, who is the ancestor, her eyes look directly into Bree's and says, I see you. And the horror moment of this,
absolutely not.
peak chef's kiss horror moment of this is so great. So, just so tightly
it's
put
great
together.
But it's like, what the fuck? Like it's such a good, because I see you is such a creepy ass phrase.
She whispers it harshly, like, I see you.
You're like, bro, no. That's exactly, arms go up. You're like, absolutely not.
And Bree can't even do that.
It also was like one of those things where I was like, it was one of those things where I was listening to it, and I don't love the reader. We talked about this. I don't love the reader of these books, but like at that moment, I was like, oh no, Porshèa got me fucked up. This is, I'm already in it, but like, is this turning into a horror? I was told this was a fantasy. It was terrifying.
I love it.
It was terrifying.
I see you. And just like imagine like an echo with that. Like if it's like ever dramatized, I needed to have like a weird horror kind of echo to it because it's just so good. But Bree can't think, Bree can't see, Bree can't look because the next thing she knows, she's snatched up.
She's snatched up
by Louisa wrapping her hands around her elbow, and then the world disappears again.
Kidnapped in a memory walk.
Like, and like how far gone are you gonna be? Like for me, at that point, I'm like, am I gonna be in a coma? Like how long have I been out?
Right. Am I dead? How long have I been gone?
How is she gonna find me? How I get myself back out? Do I just wake up? Do I pinch myself? How to stop it?
So many
Find your way back.
So many
questions. Got it, baby. Find your way back. Don't let my drive me crazy.
And what's hilarious is like I was like at some point I'm like my daddy told me that I was supposed to see this lady, and I know he never thought that I would be going down this road, and
that would be time traveling.
And my body is just stuck in a graveyard.
Bro.
Is Miss Patricia gonna wake up from the memory walk and run? Because that's what I would do. I'm so sorry, Bree. I'm so sorry. But thank God I'm not your therapist because I would have I'd have got kicked out the memory walk and been like, oh, it's above me now. I got to get out this graveyard. I'm gonna call someone to come pick you up, but I got to go.
Okay, we haven't got that far yet. But so yes, when Bree opens her eyes, she's gasping and choking. She has a tight clenching sensation around her spine, and though she feels less dizzy than the first memory walk, she still needs to bend over, hands on her knees. Sorry, it's not making a stallion. Hands on her knees to catch her breath before she looks at her surroundings. She's in another cabin like the first, but this one is smaller, brighter, and full of bustling black women. Again, a woman's wail fills the space, and it's a single torturous note that is drawn out and then ends. Voices of encouragement, and then another low moan. So, just like we were like, so many questions right now, that's where Bree is. She's like, what is that? Mm-hmm. And she went she's thinking she's going to ask that to Patricia, because that's the one other person who should be able to hear her in this moment. But no. First of all, Dr. Hartwood is not there.
Bree, what are you going to do?
The only person there is Louisa, who again is the ancestor who's not supposed to be able to hear or see either of them, who has not said a word to her, but outside of, I see you.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. This is like so terrifying. You got kidnapped by a ghost.
It is such a horror. I love the horror of this. It's so good. And so, Louisa stands beside Bree, still in a bloody dress, mind you, and stares across the cabin without answering Bree. She is tracking two women who exit through a side door, and have a metal pail held between them. So Bree is like, is she not gonna explain anything? So Bree's like, where are we? Maybe another question will help. And Louisa answers, but still does not look at Bree, and says, not far from my home and the other memory. The better question is when, girl. And this is when I understood that Louisa is playing the crotchety elder card. Louisa's
it's really funny to me
because I'm like, and I'm only going to answer what I feel like answering. I am the elder, and she will get answers on my time. On my time, not on anyone else's time. My time, I will tell you answers.
Miss Louisa, ma'am, you kidnapped me.
Through time.
I was on a field trip with a teacher. I know my daddy ain't signed permission slip for this shit.
I'm not even a child of your line. I am not a descendant.
You left your ancestor behind.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she's also irritated. She heard Bree talking about Mage Flame and the Order of the Round Table. And was like, oh, she absolutely like, not. You're coming with me.
This is like, okay, we're going to talk about it because this is my analysis of this whole, because like it's multiple memories we're going to go through right now. But my understanding, whenever they explain that this is the ancestral like moment and they're gonna take her until they feel like she's learned everything she needs to know, I'm like, oh, they were like, she is too much up under the Order's arms. We need to give her get her in tune with the actual ancestors that she needs to know. Her ancestors aren't available in the moment. That's fine. We will snatch her up and bring her into someone who can tell her the way, because that is not the way. No,
it was definitely
giving, whose baby is this?
They said,
this was
it was whose baby is this. It was also giving, you not one of your little white friends.
Yeah.
No, we don't do that here.
Like, Don't let it get. Don't get it twisted. Don't let them confuse you. We got you. Come on. We're gonna usher you into the community the right way. Don't you let them tell you about no mage flame and aether.
Miss Lee said that is some white people shit, and let me disabuse you of that real quick.
That's not what we're gonna do. We do not do that. Come on. It's like a gathering, and I love that it's a gathering, like a legit gathering of Bree. So Bree then asks, "When are we?" And she's answered, 50 years ago, which figures out it's 1815. Why was I brought here? Louisa regards Bree with shrewd eyes. Because you need to see this. You in danger, girl. And Bree says then, "Where's Patricia?" And then Louisa's like, snorts. Louisa snorts. Like, this child, like, again, elder card. It's like, this child is really just running amok right now. Why
why are you talking back to me?
Like, she doesn't even play that. She's literally just playing, like, you are asking questions about Patricia. You need to be concerned about what's going on right now. So many questions. My descendant is back in her time. You will return when we're done. Come on. Like, that's it. I will entertain some questions, but for the most part, what you need to be doing is questioning what I'm showing you and not asking me to tell you. I brought you here for a reason. She grips Bree hard around the elbow and pulls without care, whether or not Bree is stumbling behind her. The closer that they get to the sounds of what's happening, the stronger the smell of hot copper blood grows. And then there's a loud wail of a newborn. There are 3 women who are kneeled around a 4th who has just given birth, and the mother is a young girl who's maybe 18 or 19. Louisa introduces the women around the woman who just gave birth as Cecilia, Betty, and Catherine, and then Pearl is the mother. And Bree asks if Louisa knows them, and Louisa smirks and points out at the youngest woman who is standing and says, "That's my mother's mother. She brought us here, Cecilia." Cecilia and them are all, like, you know, helping Pearl with the afterbirth, like taking care of the baby. And Catherine, the one who has the baby, has a sharp intake of breath and hisses. And they're all like, so of course the new mother is like, uh-oh, what's the problem? What's going on? What's going on with my baby? And then Betty goes over and looks at the child, also gasp, like, this is rude. Like,
out of pocket. Like, give tell her what's wrong or give her her baby. One or the other. Come on.
Like, it's one thing if one of y'all gasp or whatever, and, like, at least if you're going up afterwards or whatever, like, if you're going to be the second person to go look at the movie, like, let me see what the problem is. At least, like, hold in your reaction.
Hold it in.
Something. Like, why
Or, like, narrate your thoughts out loud. Don't just gasp.
Right. Like, what are you doing? That's, I mean, and to be fair, I've gone through something similar, like, not similar, but I've gone through a moment where, like, there was someone I went to school with in high school. We had senior day. We were out at this, like, at this local park, and we were under this, like, park lounge or whatever, and there was someone who had a huge spider on her back. And I did not see it at first. It was someone beside me who was like, you gotta, and I was Betty. I was number 2, and I was just looking, I looked over, and I was like, and I was so stunned, and I was trying to, like, be able to say, you got a spider, without, like making the person move too quickly, so I was just like, it's a spider, and, like, other people were like, why are y'all so dramatic? And it's like, I was trying to be the calm voice for a huge spider. Calm. I was also freaking out. Like, it was a lot. It's a lot happening in this moment. And I can understand Betty's plight, but Betty, you gotta do better, girl. You can't, it's a baby. You can't, so.
I thought when Porshèa said that she went through something similar, I was about to be like, you helped give birth to a Cambion? That's crazy.
I'm like, nah.
That's wild. When that happen?
Hence why I love
She didn't
horror
say
stories.
the same.
Right.
She said similar.
I was
She
like,
said
not too
similar, not
similar,
the same.
but not the same. But yes, so what's wrong with this baby? Why is everybody gasping and verklempt? Bree needs to know too. So Bree starts sliding herself over there so she can figure out what's going on. And it turns out that the baby has amber eyes. And it's hilarious because Catherine says, I told you about hanging out with that red-eyed devil. And I guess... I'm like, that sounds like conjecture. It sounds like someone just like making up like a southern phrase that someone just says about like a certain kind of guy or whatever. Nah, it's legit. Like the baby has red eyes.
They literally mean red guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, baby has amber eyes,
Amber,
but
yeah,
whoever this dude is
dude
definitely had red eyes.
Yes.
But can we
And
also
it's
just
just-
say
I will
that
also
my
say-
baby has amber eyes. Her name is Luna. She's a dog. She's also a hellhound.
She's a dog.
And I was like,
Boom.
But she's
yo!
a child.
Luna's a Cambion.
Luna is a
crazy.
Cambion. It all
I can't
makes
believe-
sense.
I can't believe we just found that out.
It clicked right here. She looking at me while I'm eating my french fries and talking to y'all. And I said, look at you, you little demon.
But yeah, no. Also, I feel like it should be said that this is Valak.
I know!
Shout out to Valak. We're not gonna see him for a long time, but like
But just remember, Valak is that dude.
He is.
he is. He's great. Love him.
And it's sad, but we'll get there. So
Valak is also an amber-eyed demon.
He's
So-
definitely
He's great, as in, like, you want him on your side. If you have to know him. But overall, rather not meet his acquaintance at all. And maybe that's just me? Is that just me? Like, now that we're acquainted,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you like me and you looking out for me, but life would have been easier if we would have stayed strangers, you know? Oh. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So, after being told that you should have stayed away from the red-eyed devil, and that she ain't nothing good coming from a man that you meet at the crossroads, Pearl's like, tearfully, he's my son, about her baby. So she ain't playing that, like, I know the circumstances that my baby came from, but it's still my child. And Bree, who, again, I feel like typically younger generations are more accepting. It's like, what's the problem? Like, and she also doesn't know what the difference is and like what certain demons, like, she's new to this, she's not true to this, she doesn't know what any of this really means. And so she asked Louisa, what's wrong with his eyes? And Louisa just cryptically answers, he's a crossroads child. Which is like, duh, Louisa, I just heard him get
What
called
does
that.
that
Like,
mean?
what does that tell me?
What does that mean?
But also, I think too is like Bree is like, I've seen these eyes before,
Yeah.
so like
These are self
you know,
eyes.
he immediately thinks of Cell.
Like,
so
what's
she's like,
the problem?
What does this mean?
Like, tell
What's
me
the
what
problem
is
here?
going on. And so, and that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. So, like, as a younger generation, it's like, are y'all really just making something more than it really is? Because, like, y'all be doing that, and is it that big of a deal? Or like, tell me how it's a big of a deal? Because if it's not, y'all are playing. And so, Catherine, who's one of the women there, is like, he may look like a baby, but that's a disguise. They cannot be trusted because it's in their nature to lie. It's not every human. You know this, Pearl. Just like his father, he will turn on you one day.
Yeah. Kelsey in the chat asks, would you do it with someone with red eyes? Is this too much prejudice?
I feel like that's
I
anime.
feel like-
That's an anime character right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it really depends. Like, Itachi,
I'm
kind of
saying,
give him some of his Sharingan is all I'm saying. But
if he's
also,
spitting lines,
I
if he's
don't
spitting game like Nick,
know. Who can say?
if he talking about this hand belongs to me now, it's above me. Damn, like,
The hand is gone already, so
you know.
might as well follow it. I don't know. I think it depends. I don't know. We don't know who this demon is.
Right.
Right.
We just know that
What
she
does he
met him
look
at the
like?
crossroads in the south, and for me, that just gives
Right.
that gives me
Which-
the devil went down to Georgia.
It is not-
'Cause
It
that's-
does give
it's
me
not-
the devil
does
went
not
down to
give
Georgia.
romance. It definitely doesn't give romance at all. So I don't know. Pearl was definitely tripping, but
I feel like they were at a juke joint or something. Like, what is going on? Like, did it just happen one night under the full moon, and she just got caught up in her feelings, and then it just kept going?
Right? Was this a courting situation, or? But they said I told you not to mess with the red-eyed devil. So I'm like, do y'all all know she?
The community wide knows who that red-eyed devil is.
They've been like, Pearl.
He
now,
be in the
now
streets.
my
Like,
dear.
he's for the streets, Pearl.
But what I'm saying though, did he have game? We don't know what he was working with.
Okay, but
No,
it was
why
like,
you
just
bring
like,
up
yeah, we did
Pearl?
have
I
game.
think that's a foregone conclusion. I think he
Yes.
definitely did because
So,
he
Pearl
got
got-
her, and she was being warned off of him for quite some time.
Pearl got hemmed up.
So
This is
He's
like
for the
getting
streets.
mad.
The answer is he's for the streets.
he's
But I'm
definitely
also
for the
saying,
street.
like, this is like getting mad at Future's maybe second
Offspring.
baby mama. No. I'm saying like his second baby mama. The like fifth or sixth, like, come on now we got a history. We got a pattern. But
I think it's not that it's just that he's for the streets, because I feel like plenty of women have gone through that for generations. I think it's more the fact that he's for the streets, and now his child has now come in with this gene.
but we don't know.
It's the question of nurture versus nature, and they're not here
Yeah.
for the the nurture argument.
The
nurture
They're here
part.
for the nature.
They said life is
argument.
hard enough with this skin tone. We ain't gotta go adding.
It is 1815, girl, and we still over here on these fields.
And you
do not
sleeping with
know.
demons?
And you out here
Right.
sleeping with demons. Talk about setting your son up for a hard road. Said wrong road. The crossroads.
Wrong road.
Wrong road.
Oh my goodness!
It takes the Bone Thugs and Harmony song "Meet Me at the Crossroads" and a whole other whole other swing.
That's
Sorry.
what that red-eyed deep devil was saying. Meet me at the crossroads and
Meet
you
me at
won't
the
be lonely.
crossroads.
And you know why you won't be lonely?
Oh my
Because you're going to have this
God.
baby. To take care of by yourself.
Okay, so I'm sorry, because this is also a like what is it whenever like a comedian tells a joke and it comes back around or whatever, like when that happens. So talk about demons who break your back. She got her back broken correctly by a demon. She went about it the right way. We was talking about it. She did it the right way.
She
And
did.
she came out of it with less than stellar results. It's just what happens.
but better than Lord Davis.
At least it wasn't enjoyable, right? Okay. Moving on.
Okay, Kelsey said it's 1815. Maybe she just needed a good night, and I'm sure she did.
You know,
I'm
She had
sure she
many a good
did,
night.
but
her back got
the
broken
thing is,
many
I'm
a
not.
time.
It's like I'm not judging her, but I am. You know, it's like one of those where it's like you were definitely told not to do this. You were definitely warned off it, but I also get it at the same time. It's a
situation. There could
It's a
have been.
situation.
It was a fuck around,
Protection
find out
could have
type of situation. And
Protection
she's
could
finding
have
out.
helped if she some preventative care and around child like birth control as some nature would have.
These are root workers too. You know.
You know what
they
I'm
come
saying? But I'm
Just
also
slide
wondering
over
what the protective
some moon tea.
spell.
Isn't that what it is in Game of Thrones? Is moon tea? Just slide over some moon tea.
It wouldn't. I think it would be after the fact, not before. Like it's not like.
Whenever
But what I'm
you
saying
pick
is
your plan
maybe
B,
she
girl,
did do that, but I'm saying like that might work with a
it's
regular.
demon spawn.
The demon spawn. Maybe she did. Maybe she was like,
And maybe that's why they warned her so hard. They're like, girl, you can't come back from demon spawn, girl.
you know, she was like, I did it, but then I drank the tea.
But you can't come back.
So, what was that? It's my
Maybe that's
son.
the question for the listeners is like, what plant would help you from having a demon child?
Arsenic.
Yikes.
Wow. Okay, so sorry. So Pearl is still like, this is my child. I'm gonna stand beside them, and two amber eyes, glowing and bright. Poor baby. Just stare up at Pearl from the baby's soft brown face. The baby's in love with its mother, and its mother is like, I love the baby, and everybody's around her like, girl, this is not gonna. It's not
That's
it.
the thing. She wasn't trying to get rid of the baby. She knew what was gonna happen to that baby. She knew whose baby that was. She wasn't tripping.
She carried it to term and everything. She knew what was happening. She knew it.
Yeah, she had.
She's prepared. She's prepared for this, to an extent. So Cecilia. So Bree has gone from Louisa being like, I can see you, and gripping her arm and taking her to a memory, to now Cecilia grips her by the elbow and turns to Bree and says, "This is not a child. It is a monster." And then they spin and the world disappears again.
It's such a good chapter. But wow, they're really stressing our girl out.
They're stressing me out. I get Bree. Bree stomped up on that, knocked on the door, talking about, what up, y'all? Like, she here for this. Easy peasy. I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for a fun fantasy romp through Arthurian legend.
I don't know why you thought that was gonna be. I don't know why you thought it was gonna be a fun fantasy romp. Who told you it was gonna be that?
I was the first person who finished Legendborn, and I was gleefully saying how I liked it, but I was not completely 5-star, but high. You think I'm gonna give a near 5-star to something that's just a little light fun time?
Come on. And then I read it, and I was like, "This is the best thing I've ever read." And you thought, oh, Bayana, whatever Bayana is recommending is not going to have angst?
Just a little light fun.
That's on you.
Angst. This chapter
angst
was
and
horror.
pain and drama.
This chapter was
all of it.
Horror. She turned around and said,
"This is the horror chapter, and
I can see you." And now another ghost has done snatched her up again.
It's
what I'm saying is, there's a monster, there's a red-eyed devil slinging that D all around the south. Nobody signed up for that.
Oh my
I was
god.
told there was a knight and a round table and some black girl magic.
So, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something about, before you took me in that D, that really took my brain. It
just went into it too. Totally was not ready for that.
Maybe it'll come back around. I was gonna say, horror-wise, I feel like, I enjoy the fact that in a memory walk with ancestors, especially the fact that it's not her, it's interesting. I wonder how her own ancestors may have taken her through the journey. We get to see the flashes that we get for whenever we figure out how she became a part of the Arthur bloodline later. But it would be interesting to know if there's care given to her, where she had gone to on a memory walk with her ancestors versus being on a memory walk with someone else's ancestors. They had given her more thought and been a bit more light with her and taking her on this, because it feels like these ancestors are again leaning into the horror of it. What we went through was horrific, and you need to see this the way that it's how deeply we felt it. So it's interesting.
I feel like
that
to a certain point,
the lens that we kind of get here is a horror genre.
I feel like to a certain point, yes. But I think before the merging of the lines, her ancestors would have still been nah, you need to be scared straight because we stay away from them white devils, right? They don't know where that. I guess it's her near ancestors or more recent ancestors who have lived with that blended line probably would understand more that Bree falling in with the order is not, I mean, it is a reckless decision, but it's
inevitable to an extent.
Yeah, it's inevitable to a certain extent, and it's not something that she could actually extricate herself from. Whereas what I get from these ancestors really is trying to scare her straight. I want you so terrified of the order and of those people that you don't go around them anymore. Thinking that maybe she's just trying to be a part of that world, whereas her near ancestors who have been around since the merging of the lines would understand that she is a part of that world and she can't get away from it. That's what I would think.
Well,
yeah. Real quick, in the chat, Kelsey asks if, what is that, Cecilia knows of Valak now, since Patricia and, like, the other root crafters know Valak now. But I think it's more, like, it's possible, but some folks be stuck in their ways.
But
she
also,
could be watching
like,
Patricia and then, like...
Do they allow him to go on memory walks? Like, do they allow him to get to know the ancestors?
Well, probably not. But I'm saying, like, even if they know that Patricia and them are messing with, like, Valak, like, you know, sometimes...
Well, the person who took her to that point, we don't know, but would know, could possibly just know Valak as, like, an adult, right? Because he's been around since his birth. So it's not even that he would need to go on a memory walk. They would just have interacted with him as a person. But would they have, because he was kind of ostracized from both
Right. He would.
spaces?
I just don't... And I also don't know how far his memory goes. Like, does he remember every... Like, he's been around for so long. Like, how many faces does he...
He remembers... Well, I don't know if he remembers those people specifically, but, like, he remembered his mother, like, and his upbringing pretty...
remember your mom.
Clearly. No, I'm saying, but he... I don't know. I feel like he would remember them. If they were a big enough part of his life, and not just, like, pass through.
That's something if he's banished by them and he didn't, like, oh, yeah, that's a whole separate thing.
Yeah.
We have to bring up that question again so we can theorize and blood marks, because that'll be a fun one to go off on.
Yeah.
So, after they land, Cecilia pulls Bree with her into a fast walk, and Bree does not have to turn to realize that Louisa is not with them. They keep it moving.
She's now on her second ancestor's kidnapping.
And it's like, at this point, it's like she's been through 3 different... This is her 3rd memory in the session. And
It's a 4x4 relay, and Bree is the baton. You take her.
I enjoy... She's a spirit stick in the, like, cheerleading war or whatever.
Oh my
but
gosh.
I love that, like, Bree is... Like, she went from having racism done to her every day and then back to back in 20 minutes in the last episode to having multiple horrific ancestral interactions and like 20 minutes. I feel like this is not a long time, but it seems like it's a lot. Like it's because it is a lot of information in a so short of time, so it's really cool.
And coming in a pretty traumatic way.
Yeah,
that's my thing about the ancestors, is that, like, I understand the scared straight of it all, but if you actually wanted her to, like, internalize and, like, learn this lesson, maybe don't terrify the girl.
They only have her while they got her, like, while she's sitting in this graveyard, so I understand the urgency. It's not like Patricia's gonna be like, oh, let me bring her back every time. Like, no. So, I get it. So Bree, what Bree notices is that they're back on the campus, and so she feels like it's a more recent time because the campus looks semi, like what it kind of looks like currently. Cecilia explains that Bree needed to see the Crossroads child born to recognize that it was half human and half demon, and internally, Bree questions, is this demon a Gorshaw? When Bree asks what happened to the baby, Cecilia just answers, like, matter-of-factly, that it was cast away. So, Bree is, like, coming off of that, like, wow, okay. This, like, that late, like, Pearl had to cast away her child. Got it. That's how root crafters move over here whenever they come in touch
That's
with
how it moves, but also, like, that's how, again, because she's thinking about Cell, and she's terrified of Cell. So it's also, like... That's how dangerous they are too. If it's like, oh, we saw this baby.
Root crafters are not effing with anything that looks like a
They
spell.
don't. No. We don't mess with demons.
Red-eyed devils don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bree starts to recognize that they're following one particular person who is Ruth. Ruth is actually the one who called for Bree to see this memory. So what's interesting is, like, in this baton twirling, like, while there's one ancestor that's kind of escorting her into one memory into the next, the person who's leading her through the memory, who actually is calling her to see the memory, is the person whose memory she's walking upon. So Cecilia had called for her to see her memory, and now Cecilia's escorting her through Ruth's memory because Ruth wanted Bree to see this. Ruth is actually Dr. Hartwood's sister, and so that means that they're on the UNC campus during the 90s in this memory. And Bree takes a moment to like think about the novelty of the fact that there's three of us: an enslaved woman from the 19th century, a teenage girl from the 21st, and a college student from the 20th, weaving between Carolina students lingering on the low brick courtyard of the pit. Bree doesn't know what will happen if she touches the undergrads nearby, but she doesn't want to find out, which is also like, don't have those thoughts. Don't even do it. We're not.
That's an intrusive thought, though.
It really is. And then they start following Ruth as she leads them down a south road through a crosswalk toward the very center of UNC's campus, towards the bell tower. Once they reach the end of the tower's shadow, Ruth freezes and then abruptly ducks down behind one. She pulls a Bree in the woods. Ruth is doing this on campus, ducking down, crouching, getting her like squats on, and she takes out the headphones that she had in her ears, and then what she is actually doing is watching three shadows behind a brick patio at the base of the tower, where a hooded figure stands in a dark patch of grass on the far side of the lawn. They are nearly hidden from sight, and whoever they are, they've placed themselves strategically, where they are kind of covered from late night passerby, and the lamppost light does not reach them. She hears a harsh chanting, and it's not English, but neither is it the order's Welsh. And whatever is happening, it makes Bree shudder. She feels like something is not right. And Cecilia nudges her to get closer because she doesn't think that they can see her. And Bree, understandably, is like, just like you and Louisa couldn't see me. And mind you, Cecilia is older than Louisa, still playing that I'm an elder, don't you talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And
but also, like, shout out to Bree for being traumatized right away. Like, just like, nah, man, I'm not playing with y'all no more. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been through enough in this. I've been falling for 30 minutes.
For 30 minutes.
I'm not playing with y'all no more.
And so, Patricia doesn't really explain, but she just gives her an overall, like, look. Basically, you have been pulled into the current of our family's ancestral energy like a leaf in a river. The ancestors won't release you until they're done. Now go. So Bree does knows she's in this for the long ride. Wherever she's flowing is where she's going. Until they're done with her, then that's where she's gonna be.
This is her first memory walk. They did not let her ease into this at all.
She did not have. She's not had a moment to breathe.
Mm-mm.
They needed her. They said we need a crash course.
She said
immediately.
Yeah.
Ether, the order, and they said,
This is some intervention.
This is AP. Don't mess with them.
Yeah.
There will be a test.
And if you ask them, she brought this onto herself. She came in here saying these words. It's on her.
I mean, it is.
It really
unfortunately, not the victim blame, but.
So, Bree does what Cecilia told her to do and goes and gets closer to see what's happening. Whoever this dark figure has on gloves that's completely covered, and they take out a vial of red stuff, and then after they cover their gloved hands in it, she realizes it's blood, and then they start waving their bloodied gloved hands into the air until they see arcs of green mage flame like following them in their wake. The flame hangs in the air like an emerald rainbow and then turns into liquid. The glowing aether flows down to the ground in thick trails, and then the figure backs away chanting, and the aether spreads into a shining veil taller than a man and at least 20 feet across. There's a roaring sound like a wave in Bree's ears, and then a thick tear. Bree then feels a tug on her spine again, but just before the world disappears for the last time, she sees dozens of partially corporeal clawed feet extend through the veil and land on the grass. A low howl begins out of sight, and as it gets closer and clearer and louder, she realizes that what she's hearing are hellhounds.
Pretty sure that's Lord Davis, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is like the first time she's
Opening gates.
Yeah.
Back when he was Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
And he
call
was like,
himself.
I want the glory.
He wasn't even Arthur. He was just a
Trying to
sign of
get
Arthur.
himself.
He was trying to get to Arthur.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
though. That's what I mean. He was trying to be called.
He was trying to call
And
himself.
it didn't work,
but-
so now he's trying to call. Now he's trying to get Nick called.
And it's like, you went through all
Foolish.
of that, and you, like, is that the
Foolish.
method that works, sir? Because you've tried this before.
You didn't.
He just said I gotta turn
But
it
this
up
is
a notch.
also why, what's her name? Yeah, and like, because this is the same time that Bree's mom was at school, so I just
Right.
know she was trying to stay away from these people. Like, imagine this actually worked and she gets called. Like,
I'm like, Ruth is standing right there, and I hope I was like, did Ruth survive this? Is this her last memory? When I first read this, I was like, oh, is this, what's happening? And luckily for us, we get answers because Bree comes to right where she was whenever they first started off on Patricia's walk. There's a sound that she cannot quite hear, and she keeps hearing the end of it, and it's because her brain is still trying to process. But what she realizes is that it's Dr. Hartwood trying to bring her back into consciousness and just asking her name again and again, Bree. She realizes, like, she responds by saying Dr. Hartwood's name, and then Dr. Hartwood is like, oh, thank God, pulls Bree in for a hug and then sits back. You were here, but you weren't here. Your breathing was there, but you were unresponsive. Louisa wouldn't let me call on her again, and I had a feeling I should wait, but... So, that's how much the answer was just like, look, when we're done with Bree, we'll send her back. We don't ask... Like, they literally did not want any
Right.
questions asked. They were like...
She said, "Don't come for us. We'll send for you."
Well, like, we got
But
it.
imagine
We
how
brought her
freaked
to us
out-
for a reason, and we've got it from here. Don't
Imagine
ask
how
anything
freaked out
else.
Patricia is to be like, okay, I sat with it. You don't know enough, but you are obviously in this like very vulnerable place, and it's like, I cannot in good conscience let you go around without any knowledge of Root. And invite you into my ancestry, let you see, like, you know.
and then her ancestors.
And then her ancestors said,
We got this.
"We got this. Fuck you and your plans." How do I explain that to her daddy?
I'm the responsible adult here. Me. I'm the one.
Bro.
I'm
My daughter
So
was
what
supposed to be
happened
in a
was-
session with you, and all of a sudden she in a coma in a cemetery? The fuck?
And this is supposed to be a therapy session, mind you.
A therapy session. I thought she was supposed to be sitting her ass on a couch inside with some air conditioning.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's
Crazy.
So, once Bree's come to, she's still, like, having, like, spurts of the different memories that she's just walked through again within 20 to 30 minutes, just poking at her brain. And so what were once, like, Dr. Hartwood's, like, ancestral, like, memories are literally now Bree's, too. So her brain is, like, having that moment where it's just, like, pulling those things together. After she talks to Dr. Hartwood about, like, Ruth, and, like, she learns that Ruth is no longer with us, has recently passed, Bree's like, cool, sure, yeah. And then Jimmy Neutron's away from the inquisitive doctor, who still has, like, still trying to get answers out of Bree, like, what happened, like, what's going on, because Bree's starting to pull stuff together, and just is literally just like, I gotta blast, like, I don't have time, like, I've gotta go call Nick, and I've gotta get some answers about these red-eyed devils. And on her way to, because she pulls out her phone, she's ready to call Nick, and before she can even, like, dial Nick's number or, like, even, like, gets anywhere near the lodge, she makes a pit stop to the monumental failure in a place of honor on campus. That's right. She goes to the statue of Carr, and she looks at this man and his face, and she's like, just so much ick. So much, like, what the F is, like, is going, like, how is this happening? What is this doing here? she
Right, like she saw the violence that he
wrought and the like
did
memories
on Patricia's ancestor, and is like, oh, and here he is with like his own monument
on in a place of honor on campus, and she feels a venomous rage. Her heart pounds for too many reasons that then she can count, and she thinks about the wall of ages in the order and its lines and its like clear nature of just of connection and disconnection, and she feels frustration and what she felt in the moment when she was looking at that as well. And so she just like cannot, she's having this moment where she's, again, she just lived through these memories along with these women, and she just cannot fully like even like emotionally be in a place where she can respond to those emotions she's feeling. But what she is in a place of is like feeling a level of like why the pain that she feels from all these things are a level of belonging, a sense of belonging to her, in a sense of like belonging to time, belonging to a bloodline, belonging to the efforts and things that people ahead of her have gone through. And then also she recognizes like where she was walking in the graveyard, and she stands and claims the bodies whose names that the world wants her to forget. She claims the bodies whose names that she was taught to forget. And then she claims the unsung bloodlines that soak the ground beneath her feet, because she knows that if they could, they would claim her. And I love that as like a philosophy and a thought. Like, if they were around, they would claim her, and she should, like, they all have, like, it's all connected. I think that the blood mark stuff actually goes deep, like, takes this and it goes in a really great way with it, I think, when they showcase how different people who are root crafters have reclaimed like the places that their people were human trafficked, and like the nature of like how much pain and sorrow and suffering is there, but also whole lives were lived there, and how like you're kind of reclaiming the life that was given in the relationship that was built between the earth and the people, and so like reclaiming that level of belonging, that level of relationship that was there, and recognizing that pain is along in that, but it's not the full story of it either.
Yeah. I also feel like I think it's powerful. It's a powerful moment too, because we have that moment where William takes her through like the wall of ages and line is law, and she feels that sense of like loss of like, I would never be able to do this. I'll never be able to trace my line. I'll never know my ancestors. And now she's in this moment where she's like, oh, because of root, because of what we can, I can know, like there is like a path for me to know them. And even if there wasn't, like, even if I can't have a wall of ages, I know that they were there. I know what they went through. I know what they gave up and sacrificed, and like I am just as connected to them as these Legendborn are to their ancestors, and it's just as important, maybe even more so, and beautiful and powerful, and maybe even more powerful because of what I know that they went through. And we don't need, I mean, it would be nice if we had monuments to what they went through. But I definitely am not going to let these monuments to people like Carr stand as anything but a reminder of the actual brutality, and that's what it was for. And I'm not going to envy that, because it's all built on lies. None of it is truth. And like I can find and know the truth of my history. I like just love the juxtaposition of those two, the ending of those two chapters where she actually gets to like look back.
And I like that there's an urgency there, right? Like, so she's running to Nick because she needs to talk to him about Cell and like demons and all that kind of stuff. But I like that she takes this moment as well, just because it's just like the stakes are just as high, it feels like, right? It doesn't feel like, oh, we're taking, the way it's written, it doesn't feel like, oh, we're taking a moment to have this lesson, like let's have a little moment over here about blackness, and like, you know what I mean? It feels like, no, these things are interconnected and they're part of the same thing, and it's important for her to do that and to acknowledge her ancestors, but also like her own emotions around what she's just experienced, and her own rage around this like racist institution. And then she can go figure out the fact, why Stella's a demon and allowed to be here. So yeah.
Yeah, and so to wrap this chapter up in a neat-ish bow, Bree takes all the emotions that she's processing, like again that anger, all of the feelings, and she can't help but in this moment to want to push the statue, so she physically pushes it. It does nothing to physically, but internally for her, it makes her feel stronger. It makes her feel taller, and it makes her feel like she might have the roots to grow just what she needs. And then it gives her like the empowerment that she needs with fire in her veins to turn on her heel and run. And that's where we end.
Tight. All right. With that, we're halfway through this book.
I have an honorary MVP and an honorary benching before we go into the actual MVP and benching. Honorary MVP is Tracy for writing this, because good Lord, you ain't have to go that hard. And honorary benching is Tracy for writing this, because good Lord, you ain't have to go that hard. There we go. And we're halfway through. Yay.
Yeah. All right. So MVP.
I think it's unanimous, no?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Patricia. She just, I just said it. Like, she just decided, like, this is the right thing to do. I'm going to, like, let Bree know. And I also think, like, too, as a therapist, like, thinking, like, a lot of Bree's pain and what she's suffering from is, like, having this disconnect from her mother and, like, not knowing. You know what I mean? So it's like also in like in an actual like therapeutic way of being like, I'm gonna take you on a memory walk. Like, you can connect to your mother. Like, you can, you know what I mean? Like, I can explain this like this root thing and also help you better understand it, harness it, use it in the right way as well, so you don't get pulled into this whole order bullshit that I hear you talking, spouting ether and shit. Like, take you away from that and lead you on a good path. So I think like it's both like on the root perspective of helping someone learn and do right, but on the therapy perspective too of like helping her connect and find meaning and find like not feel so lost, right? Like, your mom is gone, yes, but she's not lost to you. It's a very admirable thing that she tries to do. And then her ancestors said,
we can do it better.
We got it. We'll take it from here. And that stress.
Yeah.
Whew, she didn't need it. But I do appreciate the effort. And it also leads to, like, literally one of the most terrifying / enjoyable / like, all-encompassing, I don't know what that word, like, just, moments of my reading life. I will, like, never forget the first time I got to these chapters, because this was when I was like, this shit is fire. The memory walk was got me. So
definitely.
I also enjoy that as someone who is very I'm gonna call it my Sag life of very much in tune with like honesty, like honesty really just like makes me feel, I guess, like a level of respect and regard. Like, if you're honest with me, I feel like you are, we're coming from the same plane, we're respecting each other's, like, understanding of the world, right? And I think that, that's what Dr. Hartwood is offering Bree, is that, like, she doesn't fully know how much Bree, feels like she missed out on stuff with her mother, and is questioning stuff around, like, the nature of like the Merlin component of like whether Merlin was there for her mother's death or whatever. But she does know that after mentioning Rootcraft to Bree and Bree not knowing about it, not knowing that her mother was sort of tied to it, that there's a level of like, oh, Bree doesn't feel like she learned enough truth from her mother. And I love that she uses that truth and honesty component. Like, I think that a lot of adults miscount how much just showing the like truth, like in like being unvarnished to an extent, like not too sweetening up too much stuff to children, in like showing that you like you respect a young person's ability to like pick up on what you're putting down, and being able to like interpret the world in a way that'll be useful to them. I think that by trying to keep things away from Bree, already has Bree like in a distrustful, more likely to rebel, come into college and want to do this after Bree stuff that doesn't seem quite like it's for her better brain, her better emotional growth. So I think that I really enjoy that Dr. Hartwood picked up on that and is using truth. There was no way for her to predict that the truth would go this hard with Bree that way, but I think that like this aspect of her like a therapeutic practice strategy, it was the right way to go with Bree. So I like seeing that was a thought process behind how she's ushering Bree through her journey.
Type for everything y'all said. Benched. I said Arthur and Lord Davis. Arthur for like, again, we were talking about like the more he created the structure and the, you know, he's the reason why all of these horrible things have happened. And then Lord Davis because he's more like specifically in this moment the reason why these horrible things are happening. You know, for the abuse of Nick and mesmering his mom, for, you know, the colonizer magic and being the reason why these demons are even here in the first place, both again historically and at present. Yeah, F them.
Yeah, I benched Arthur and the Regents, and I wanted to do the Regent, and I is Arthur not also technically a Regent? I don't know, but like the powers that be
no, because he's dead.
In the
what
order.
What are they called though? They're called. They just the term came up. They're called something, not just like whatever.
Is it the vassals? Who are the no, it's not vassals. Who, no. Like, I know it's the Regents, but like who are the specific decision makers? Well, basically,
I'll pull up the term for you, but yeah,
it's the Regents and the Merlins.
It's something else. It's like
the order of the Merlins, or whoever those decision makers. It's the top people in the order, the Merlins and the Regents. Fuck them for allowing and making it seem as though wiping the memory of someone's child is just the punishment that you should do. Like, it's even an option as a punishment. Is a like, once we've gotten to that level of savagery, there's no saving you. Like, it is just completely disgusting. And then, it ties back into the entire system that they set up. And, like, yes, these particular regions at this point maybe did not set up this system that goes back even further to Arthur and the OG Merlin. But at every instance, in every section, they have the power to change some stuff, and they do not. And that is... Like, you got baby Nick out here mad at a 6th century ghost when you could have just let him have his mother, just given him some space, just, you know what I mean? Like, you could change things. You could grow. You could, like, you could be like, oh, this is how it was set up in the 6th century, but it no longer is serving us. So, them.
I am benching, the Daughters of American Revolution / White Mediocrity TM, because if you didn't know, a lot of the people who have put up all these Confederate monuments put them up in the 60s, and they are people who are using the same kind of logical process that the Daughters of American Revolution are doing. Some of them, sometimes it is the chapters of Daughters of American Revolution themselves who have done them, and it's all to consistently put up this like mythos of like white mediocrity equaling heroism, and it's not true. the idea that the South will rise again and look the way that it's this mysticized understanding of what the South was, where no one was living a good life unless they were rich white men. Like, that's happening to this day, people. Like, that's not changed at all. So, seriously and truly, all these monuments on campuses, all these, like, street names named after colonizers, like, F all of them. All the people who try to keep up the mythos, and Bree, learning that the real heroes and the real like struggles or whatever, like she knew this, but like seeing it offhand, it just kind of like picked up for me this ongoing fu I have going on for people who keep up this mythos to this day, all times. You ever ask me, do you still have a grudge against the people who put up statues? The answer is yes. If there's no one who has a grudge against them, I'm dead. Like, that's where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say, not to take away from the very valid and real and, like, good point that you just made, every time you said the Daughters of the American Revolution, I saw Emily Gilmore. Was I not the only one? Was it just me?
I never watched it.
I didn't see Emily Gilmore, but I understand how you got there.
So Lena benches Old Man Davis. And Kelsey benches Arthur. He needed therapy for himself, this whole thing, because he was grieving. Like, I've been watching it, like, this, like, dramatic soap opera from the Dick Wolfiverse, the Chicagos. And every time I'm like, y'all, just an intake appointment with a therapist would have solved some of this. Like, I could have got 45 minutes of my life back had you just dialed the number.
If workplaces actually cared about the well-being of the workers and therefore would have, like, moments where they would have to be like, this happens, you have to go to a therapist. Like, there are moments where something major happens and they get forced to go to a therapist. But no, just every day, something happened. Seems like it would be good if you could just go.
The amount of times, at least in Chicago Fire, they're like, counseling is available for you if you'd like to use it. No, make that bitch mandatory.
Required. It's a requirement.
Make that bitch mandatory. You can't clock back in. Don't come back here.
Yeah.
Until you done talk to a therapist. Goodness. Okay. Well.
Thank you for listening. Join us next week. We'll be discussing chapters 27 through 29.
Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at WizardTeamPod or at BlackNerdsCreate. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.